Yeah, I think that the legacy of slavery is still with us, and I'm not talking about the obvious stuff like, you know, institutional racism and structural racism and all those sorts of things. The institution of slavery was in early America was a classic expression of feudalism, of European feudalism. Basically, the peasants were slaves. They were the property, literally the property of the landowners. You know, slavery has been practiced in other forms by other names throughout history. The Greeks had slaves, the Romans had slaves. And you're absolutely right. This country would not have developed the way it did, or at least it wouldn't have developed as rapidly as it did without slave labor. And I believe this to be true. I read this in one of the histories of America some years back, that the quote value, and see it's represented as labor, but the quote value of all the slaves in the South was greater than all the industrial and land property in the North. So, you know, it was a very big deal. But I would say that the part of the legacy of slavery that's still with us is this idea that businesses are basically kingdoms, that labor is disposable, that you know, if a company wants to, you know, is in search of greater profits, they can simply pick up their factory and move someplace else. That, you know, I mean, there's a fundamental question here, and this is the fundamental question that, you know, if you're going to have an argument with a libertarian, you want to have is the economy here to serve society, we the people, or are we the people here to serve the owners, masters, overlords of the economy? Which is it?
Capitalism and the development financially of this country is solely due to slavery. This country was built on the wealth of slavery, and I think that's an issue regardless of the tactical or the analytical part of what our forefathers came up with. Without that labor, this country would have never developed the way that it has. And in addition, we talk about today the working conditions. The problem is that the powers that be cannot move away from that model of slave labor. I'll take my response off there. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Colette. Yeah, I think that the legacy of slavery is still with us, and I'm not talking about the obvious stuff like, you know, institutional racism.